Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Internet Dads. This is a big one because it is a life-changing one. We have gone from a parenthood of 3 children to a collection of 4 children. We have an arrival to announce here. Rory, but more importantly, Victoria has absolutely smashed it and delivered a beautiful baby girl. Rory, congratulations, father of 2.
Thank you, father of 2 and only 2. That's it. That is so it. It was the most fraught, tense, wonderful experience I think I've ever been through. I became a fully paid up member of the cesarean club, the C-section club, which sort of blew my mind.
Yes.
And I can honestly tell you that Pandora, as her name is, Pandora, is now, man, I don't even know what day is it?
She was born on Saturday.
She's born on Saturday, so she's 5 days old.
Yeah.
She's 5 days old, and I can honestly say that it is the most hectic, unbelievably tricky, but obviously fulfilling 5 days of my life.
I mean, there's so much to talk about there. I mean, firstly, same as us. Yeah, your firstborn was natural labour. Second was cesarean. Slightly different reasons, I think, for our 2 deliveries there. But I always think, whatever your plan is, and people have these birth plans and stuff, just as long as they arrive safely, that's the most important thing. But it is such a different experience. You sent me your picture of the sort of classic post-cesarean picture with the mum in the bed next to you. I had literally the identical picture.
I know, you sent it. It was beautiful. Beautiful photo of you.
I mean, talk to me about what that was like going through.
It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. It was like I see myself. It's funny how you see yourself sometimes, right? The way that I see myself is not the way that I am. In my head, I'm like this quite strong, stoic man.
Really?
In my head, mate, it's how I see myself. Yeah, I don't expect other people to see me like that, but in my head, I'm going to be like resilient.
Yeah.
I'm going to be strong. Mate, my wife was so strong. She demonstrated all of the attributes that I should have demonstrated. I was all over the place. I nearly fainted. Like I actually had a conversation with the anaesthetist, who was like an incredible man, like so good at his job, like so perfect, did it so well, so thorough. And he basically really kindly but directly said to me, if you get out if you can't be here.
Can't handle it.
Yeah, if you can't if you can't handle the truth, get out of the room, effectively, is what he said to you. You went A Few Good Men. And it was so...
Did you stay in?
No, I stayed in. I pulled myself together.
Good man.
And since then, I actually had a little bit of an awakening. Like when Alex was post-cesarean, I assume this is for everybody. Victoria has to have an injection for the next 10 days or something.
Yeah.
I'm now doing that.
You're doing that, yeah.
I'm now doing that.
Yeah.
Which is a million miles away from the man that I was even pre-cesarean.
Well, if it makes... I don't know if Alex will like me telling this story, but I'm going to do it anyway. Sorry, Al. So you had to do that and injection into the tummy or what have you. But I had a bit of previous in that, not to make this about our experience, because I want to focus on Pandora, but with our first child, because of Alex's cervical stitch, which I mentioned before, she had to actually have a pessary up the bum every day of the pregnancy.
Did you deliver that?
I did deliver it with pride.
Did you?
Yeah, and just lots of washing the hands.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did it every single day. brought us closer together. So when it came to the injections, it was like, oh, this is easy. Do you know what I mean? I've done it much worse. But yeah, I mean, the C-section stuff, ours was an emergency C-section on our second. Yeah. So Alex had gone through labour. She'd gone through the pushing and all that stuff. Long story short, in our situation, his heart rate they weren't happy with it. And it turned out they had a theory that the cord was around his neck, which actually is how I came out as well. I wasn't C-section, but I did come out with the cord around my neck.
That's terrifying.
And they have to get it off. So that was their theory. And they were like, look, every time you're pushing, we can see the baby coming. And he's going back in. And it was basically almost like a bungee cord. Oh, the umbilical cord was putting him back in. So they were like, we're going to have to go C-section for this emergency. All very like, he's suddenly into the theatre and all that stuff. And like exactly what you said about Victoria, Al just took it like a champ. Just like, okay. And I'll be honest, like and there's absolutely nothing wrong with coming through C-section. We've got 2 kids between us that have done it. I've got lots of friends that have done it. Sometimes it's elected, sometimes it's needed. But like ultimately our plan was to deliver naturally. So we were like a little bit upset, if you like, and Al was a bit upset, bless her. But equally, you've got no choice. You're like, let's get this baby out safely. And you just roll with the punches. It's exactly what Al did. But
it's so hard, isn't it? Like I genuinely believe that the human race would die out in one generation if the roles were reversed. You know, in some parallel universe, if it was you that had to give birth, particularly in that way. So effectively, mate, it's like major surgery. I'm going to, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut your stomach open. You're like, okay, that doesn't sound great. But then the natural way don't sound too clever either. Like they're both terrifying.
There's advantages to the C-section, if we're being honest. There's definitely advantages in terms of, from a woman's perspective, like having to do less pushing. that's the thing. There's obviously a converse side to that, which is the recovery is way more
I don't think we
long
can do
term.
it, though. I think that there is a particular strength and grit that seems to manifest itself in women, particularly pregnant women.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know fellas to be like this. I
It's
don't
that
think
supernatural like mum strength. You hear about them pushing cars out of the way and
it
stuff.
is.
They just go into like mum mode and just get it done.
Just got it done. And then whatever was put to, did you find this as well? Whatever was put to Victoria, like it was like the next challenge. It was like being on an episode of That Cube. It's like the next one. You got to do this. So whatever became the new thing, I'd kind of go, okay, that's meant like that. She'd go, okay, fine. It was like the next.
It's like, what's the alternative though? Do you know what I mean? It's like it's such a different experience to natural birth. You're like, Alex didn't really see, our child for the first hour. She actually lost a lot of blood in the C-section. So weirdly, the lady who did it, the actual surgeon, is the wife of a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
And we didn't realise until she sort of took her mask down.
Really?
We're like, oh. And she was super, even though she did nothing wrong, she smashed it. She did a great, helped us, our baby arrive. But she's really apologetic because Al lost a lot of blood and she was like, as soon as the baby comes, I'm going over there cutting the cord and I'm looking back over and Al's just out of it. And I'm like, you start to think the worst for a second, don't you? But it was all good. But yeah, it's such a different experience to the other way where, the baby comes out and you're both looking at it and this is amazing. I was sort of on my own for an hour with the baby.
Well, you one night, this is what I couldn't believe either. Say there was no baby involved. Like it was just major stomach surgery.
Yeah.
You go, oh my God, that's crazy. That's going to be so difficult. Then you add in the factor of the baby. And then we went home the next day.
Yeah, I think we did as well.
One night Victoria did in hospital.
One thing they don't talk to you about, I don't think, and I'm sure you had a plan for this, and maybe yours was a bit, because I know you had a sort of, you had a bit of notice it was coming sort of thing, is obviously you can't bring your other child into the hospital when you have the baby, which obviously makes sense. Because we were caught short last minute, I literally so basically I went in on her own for an appointment. This is for a second. It was like day before due date, I think, or maybe even due date. And they were like, we don't like the heart rate. We're gonna induce you. So Al never came home from that appointment. So I'm at home with our oldest, and I'm like, well, what do we do now? So she's like, we thought the baby could come any minute.
You got to get here.
You got to get there. So luckily I've got a really good pal of mine who lives literally half a mile from the hospital, but he's not like got kids or anything. And I went, he was there with his missus, and I went, I haven't really asked you before, but you've just got to look after him for as long as it takes.
Yeah.
So we had him for like 3 or 4 hours when me and Al were in there. The baby ends up not coming. So then my brother came to the rescue and took my oldest back to his for the night.
Right.
But the baby still didn't come for another day. My parents happened to be on holiday at the time. Great time, due date.
Do you think that was planned?
Listen,
because sometimes those plans, like, do you know what? I had a moment like that. If I'm completely honest with you, I was gearing up to stay the night in the hospital, like, and I'm sitting in that very upright, uncomfortable chair, far more uncomfortable than this chair, like the famous standard NHS chair, just sitting in it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to sleep here. This is terrible. This is the night before. The nurse came round and went, it's 11. Why are you still here? And visiting finished 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
And I went, oh no, do I have to go? Do I have to go home? That's a disaster. Do you think that your parents were like, it's going to be crazy. We need a trip to Madeira now?
I don't think so. I mean, it's very interesting because my mum is like, this is such a big part of parenting, I think. Grandparenting, I guess. I always say to people, like, having grandparent support makes your experience of parenthood so different if you don't have it.
Yeah.
And in that first year or whatever of our firstborn, we didn't have a lot of it for no fault of anyone. And Alex's parents spent a lot of time in Portugal, so they weren't around too much. And my mum and dad, well, first of all, it was COVID as well, the first time. But my mum's got Parkinson's, right? And she also is an amazing, amazing with kids. She's always been amazing with kids. But she's what I would describe as as like a toddler nanny. Yeah. She comes alive when they get to that age, and her relationship with my oldest now is amazing, like really good. But the Parkinson's also stopped, so she couldn't really hold a baby. Yeah. She'd be worried it was going to drop it. So she wasn't able to help loads in that first year. Last few years, she's been unbelievable, as has my dad, and they really my little boy to sleep over there this weekend.
Nice.
But when you've got that, a grandparent maybe that lives down the road, or this thing that's becoming less and less common now, but it's such a game-changing experience, I think, if you don't have that.
They have such wisdom.
There's wisdom, and it's like for a child to have a good relationship with their grandparents is so special.
Yeah, priceless.
And I love that. I love watching our kids with their grandparents. But Yeah, I don't think my mum and dad went on holiday on purpose. I think they're enjoying that part of their life at the moment. You know, they're retired and they want to just enjoy themselves. Like I say, mum's got Parkinson's. My dad's had a few health scares as well. So I think all the better for it. Go and enjoy yourself, but maybe not on due date.
Yeah, not If you could just be around, it would be.
Because they live near the hospital.
If you could just be around.
It's one of the reasons we chose that hospital. Is it's near mum and
there.
dad.
They weren't there.
But anyway, I love you, mum and dad.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was an amazing day. But do you know, since the birth, you've gone massively up in my estimation.
Was I not already up there?
No, you don't get me wrong. You're in the pantheon of greats. You're in the upper echelons. But you might have become like numero uno. You're not alone here. Basically, my respect for anyone who has 2 children, if the oldest one is 3 or less when that new child comes along.
Yeah.
I think that you're utter heroes. The only reason that I'm upright at the moment, the only reason that I hope I'm forming minorly coherent sentences is because my oldest Clementine has just turned 6 and is therefore on the scale of being a child fairly self-sufficient. You know, she's incredibly nurturing and caring and understanding towards Pandora. We can have a conversation with her and explain that Victoria is perhaps less mobile than you're used to. She gets it. If she was 3 and this new sister came along, Pandora comes along, I don't know how anyone can function, and you are an example of how somebody can.
Any credit you're giving to me, I push on to Alex, I would say. Don't give it to me. But also I would say the people that we mentioned before, my friends who've had kids like a year apart, I mean, that's really tough. I think even he was just over 3 when our youngest arrived, my oldest, and he's still like consciously, aware he's a bigger brother, and you can have those conversations. When we brought him in to meet his younger brother, it's quite funny because we were commenting on how our youngest had, for a 1-day-old baby, had quite a strong neck. He was sort of holding his head up a little bit. And Alex is like, he's got such a strong neck. And my oldest goes, I've got a strong neck too. Look at this. I was like, whoa, that's strong.
Yeah, that's. Did you do the thing? Do you know what we did? Which was actually a major winner. That the new baby came along with a present.
Yes, we did that. Yeah,
did the thing. Yeah, and that became so important. And then Clementine sort of inquisitively was going, was she holding it when she was born? And it was wrapped in bluey paper. She went,
the 3-year-olds.
Who wrapped it? yeah. 3-year-old doesn't do that.
6-year-olds, they're onto this.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's such. I've got a lovely video of them when they met each other, and you did a little present handover, and we were like, "Can you give him a kiss? Can you give him a kiss?" And he was so gentle, like almost like he thought the baby would break. And
that breaks
sort
your
of went
heart, doesn't it?
Like this, it was like, barely touched him. You're like, oh my
God. I find that relationship the thing that actually like breaks my heart. Like if I look at them together, if when I've seen sort of Clementine and Pandora, it's the screensaver on my very new and updated mobile phone.
Yeah.
It's what
you got a new one.
I've got a new phone. It's so good.
New baby, new phone. New baby, new you.
Do you know why? Oh, I haven't told you. You know why?
Did you lose your phone?
Something worse happened. It's like something worse happened.
Yeah.
I was filming I was with Adam McCullough.
Okay.
Right? I was with Adam McCullough. I was on an episode of The Club, and my old phone, which was an iPhone 8.
Wow.
Which I had for a very long time.
It's impressive. It's Antiques Roadshow.
I had the phone longer than I've been with Victoria. I'm not even joking. Right. I don't care about stuff like that. I genuinely don't care.
No, fair play.
I was on an episode of The Club, and the phone it had been struggling. It had been on like a life support machine for a long time. The power was majorly struggling. Trying to charge it became almost a full-time job. And it just died. It was like, I don't know if you've ever seen a phone die. It just went, it was fine. It just went, it was over. Victoria was 1 day before her due date, and my phone had died. I had to send her very quickly. Adam McCullough, who I was with, I sent her his phone number, and I went, "Hi Victoria, if you go into labour, will you phone Adam? I don't have a phone."
That's mad.
And she went like that to me. It was a Sunday. She went like that to me. She went,
"Get a phone.
Go and buy a phone." So the next morning, I had to go straight to Regent Street and buy a new phone.
And you're the proud owner of an iPhone 9 now.
My phone is amazing.
Yeah, well, welcome to the 21st
It's absolutely amazing. It has something on it. I forget what it's called now, but you can press it. It all kind of lights up together. I forget what it's called. Some sort of intelligence. AI. And basically, I can take a photo of something and take a photo of something. It will tell me what it is.
Yeah, that's decent.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, there's a new, actually, my phone just updated itself this week, and there's a new app on there called Playground, I think. And it's like, allows you to make little AI pictures. So I upload a picture of my kids and it turns them into a cartoon character and stuff. I mean, it's all the CIA's now got everything on me, and I'm in big trouble if I commit any crimes probably, but I don't plan to. So it'll be all right.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fine. But so yeah, I had that sort of rigmarole of like sorting out the phone. She was in labour. She obviously wasn't happy about me being totally uncontactable, because then there's a moment where I had to go home and I'm not with Adam anymore.
Yeah.
So there was like an hour period where I'm just completely off grid while she could have potentially gone into labour. You can imagine how that went down.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
No.
I mean, I've got a bad thing to admit. And by the way, you know, full disclosure, this is the first episode we've actually recorded since these have started to go out. So we filmed the first 3 in blocks, mainly because we knew Rory was expecting. We thought we might get caught short at some point. What that means is it's actually the first episode we've been able to react to your reactions. So we've got some good dad diaries later. But just to say, first of all, like how amazing the response has been.
It's touching, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting messages from people I haven't spoke to in years, friends, and they're like, I don't know if you know this, I've got a 7-month-old or whatever, and this is really good for me to listen to. You know, obviously a lot of lads, but women too. And it just feels like, I know we've got a lot of work to do, and we've got, you know, these things always need a lot of consistency, and you know that more than anyone. You've been working on multiple shows like this, but it just feels like what we're doing here is got a place, and is quite good thing to spend our time doing.
I completely agree. I mean, the reaction has been, obviously a lot of the time we exist in the football world, which is so tribal, and obviously that can permeate and slightly almost via osmosis coming to this. So somebody will go, this guy thinks Erling Haaland's rubbish. Why am I going to listen to his views on fatherhood? Which is totally legitimate. But it's quite interesting to kind of like, I think because of our experiences in football, it's also tribal. Yeah. It's also partisan. Yeah. Whereas this, it's quite nice because it gives you the other side of the internet, which is actually the joyful side. People being very nice, people being very generous.
It's also, that's what brought me on to that point, is that, you know, we're aware there's always going to be difference of opinion. And listen, we're not even representing men here. We're representing 2 very specific men who have often differing opinions. Yeah. And there's a load of other ways you can be a dad, and there's a load of other ways you can be a parent. So certainly, like, we're not expecting you guys to always, like, agree with what we're saying. Like I said in the first episode, we're not coming out and saying that we think we've got it right either. We're just explaining how we're living our life.
No, most of the time I've got it wrong. Yeah. and I'm putting it out on here for counsel in terms of how to improve.
Yeah, and then that was why I was going to tell this story, because it probably will get me some stick in the comments.
Go on, let me hear it.
It will get me some stick in the comments. Basically, when our oldest was born, it was COVID, so I wasn't allowed to stay. I was there for the arrival, but it was only like, you know, in the sort of danger zone was when I was allowed to come. I had to leave every other time. And obviously when he was born, he was a month premature, so he had to stay in for I think it was just one day in the end. So I went home that night, got on Zoom, had my family on Zoom. We had a little toast. Yeah. It was quite nice. It was New Year's Eve as well. It was New Year's Eve. So it was like New Year's Eve night on Zoom, had a little whiskey, and all good. And obviously, yeah, it was a fairly long labour. He came at 1 a.m. So I was knackered. So the plan was, because the visiting hours the next day was maybe, I don't know, but let's say it was like 10 till 1 or so. It wasn't a big window because it's COVID. So I like slept in till like midday. Not on purpose. I slept through my alarm legitimately. And I wake up and I've like 50 missed calls. She's like, where the hell are you? You've got an hour before their like visiting time's closed. I'm like ringing out. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I literally just zonked out. Didn't wake up. So obviously get in the car. I had like 30 minutes to be with her.
Even on the scale of me, who is one of the most ridiculous people I know, that is ridiculous.
That's really bad.
Like that is actually, I wouldn't have thought that you were capable of that. That's so funny. I mean, you know, was she livid?
Of course she wasn't. Considering the crime that had been committed, she was actually really good about it. But you know, earlier in that episode when I talked about the holiday I took and that was 1-0 to me, should we say 1-1 now?
1-1.
I think it's fair.
1-1. I mean, I don't know if you can concede 2 goals in the same moment, but that is like up there, isn't it? That's a wout phase, sort of scoring 2 own goals at Anfield. Like, yeah, my God.
Absolute stinker. But genuinely was just gone. You know, and you're like, you know, you're so tired, you're like unconscious.
But that's how I am now. But do you know what I find quite entertaining about being in this like sleep deprived state? It's quite liberating because you walk around sort of delirious. Like, I don't really know what day it is. I don't really know what my purpose is apart from like looking after my child. It's quite weird. And do you know what I've managed to do? Like, my house wild at the moment. Like, it's wild. You know, like there's nappy bags everywhere. It's all going on. It's just like sort of crazy. Like that first scene in Saving Private Ryan. You know, it's just all sort of going mad. It's a bit like that. And I've managed to like locate this weird freedom and calmness in this. Yeah. So do you know, like totally sleep deprived, I now quite cherish doing the late nights because it's like a total legitimizer to watch ridiculous telly. So I sit there like that with Pandora, and I can almost take some credit and go to Victoria, you go to bed. as if it's totally selfless. And I watch like the most ridiculous. I'm currently watching something called Get Gotti, which I would never have the time to watch under normal circumstances. I'm playing really late night poker, which is like a liberator, and I'm doing it all with total legitimacy. Like, you know, if I didn't have a baby and I just like sitting up at 2:00 in the morning watching a film about like getting Gotti, somehow trapping like America's mafiosa, Victoria would be like, "You got mad? Go to bed. You got to go to work in the morning." Whereas now I've got freedom to do it.
No, I had a similar experience with our first, and it was chess, online chess. I play like, honestly, at tens of thousands of games because I'm only playing like little 1 minute games. I still play every day now. I actually love chess, but it came about from that period of late night, sitting on with one arm on a bed, one arm on chess, playing these bullet games. Anyone fancies the challenge, let me know. Chess.com, add me on there. Specifically 1 minute games, I'm pretty lethal. But yeah, that is that little period. It reminds me of something we spoke about before, which is like sometimes in life, you don't want it to go on forever, but sometimes when like there's something really important to do, you know, and sometimes it's a sad thing, like it's a health issue or someone's poorly or whatever, or you need to help someone. Sometimes it's like, like a parenting thing, you need to focus your energy on something. All the other stuff, which ultimately is quite inconsequential, it just sort of fades away. Yeah. And that's actually quite a nice way to live sometimes, because when you're not in that zone,
the mundane can really become so important. You're just thinking about a million
things, aren't you? And you're being pulled in all these different directions. Yeah. And when you've got to do something, it just allows you to focus your energy a bit more. So I think that's a nice part of this. We had a little chat, didn't we, on the day that Pandora arrived, and we found out all the essentials. Like, good. I was like, now go away, like stop talking to me and enjoy that fuzzy feeling, because that is the best bit. That was an amazing thing, actually. There was something almost poetic about that. Do you remember when you texted, like the minute that you text me? Yeah, and you were like, I was like, wow, we've got like a Dwight York, Andy Cole sort of telepathic understanding here, because you text me at the precise moment that it was all going to happen. You know, we just got. I'm getting in the gown. It was that moment, which until I then went into the theatre, which was freezing, I didn't take it seriously. Like, you know, when I'm putting on the clothes, I think I'm in an episode of Scrubs. I'm like, it's like I think I'm George Clooney, like in here, I'm sending selfies, and I'm like, I'm sitting there like having ejections, and I'm going like wearing the gear and that, and then I went into the theatre, and that was a moment where I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, this is legit. For real now. Heart rate's up. I'm watching the anaesthetist like scrub, you know, get really clean. Yeah, I'm totally in the way. Wherever I stood, I was completely in the way. And that was the moment where I sort of went, oh my God, I could burst into tears now, because this is like the life of the two most important things in my life is suddenly in jeopardy. It is, and it's an amazing thing that they do. You think about, you know, I don't know exactly when cesareans became sort of commonplace, but at some point they obviously, I imagine... I was one. Were you? I was. Okay. Yeah, I was one. But this is the difference. My mum was in hospital for 10 days after me. I was massive. Do you know that? Right. No. I was the biggest baby you've ever heard of. How much do you know? £10.7. Wow, that is big. And I was a month premature. You're only £12 now. I know. I was the biggest baby anyone's ever. That's mad. I know. I don't know why. So right? and that why the cesarean was. That's necessary? Why my mum. I was also about 3 weeks premature, but my mum stayed in hospital. 3 weeks premature. I was 3 weeks. I was 3 weeks premature. Jeez. Yeah. That's mad. But sure, you weren't twins, and you were one of those ones that ate him up. Happened. No, I don't know why it doesn't make any sense, considering I'm probably the smallest man that anyone's ever met. But I was 3 weeks premature, born in St Mary's, Paddington, and my mum stayed in hospital for 10 days. Wow. So my dad had to, you know, flip between, but 10 full days. Our wives both were out within a day. All of the modern approach to medicine, all of the advances that have been made, childbirth still feels very prehistoric almost. The way that our wives gave birth, and the way that the next generation will give birth, it's identical to the way that our great grandparents were giving birth. Like nothing's really changed. It's still so prehistoric. Yeah, and it feels like, you know, I don't know if this is a man issue or like a societal issue, but it feels like I saw this interview with some celebrity recently, I can't remember who it was, and they were pregnant, and the interviewer said something like, oh, do you think being a mum's going to affect your ambition in your career? I think they were an actor or something. And she was like, I'm having a baby. I am ambitious. Like, this is an ambitious thing I'm undertaking. I love that response. I didn't think you were going to say it. That's a great response. It's like, how dare you sort of thing. Like, you think this is anything more ambitious than growing a life in your own stomach? Too right. It's mad. Yeah, it's a strong response. Yeah, so I think that there's a not a good association, obviously not with everyone in society, but certainly parts of it that almost look at it as you know, putting other things to one side and all that thing. Sort of an easy option rather than the most difficult option that you could take. No, it is the most ambitious, difficult decision that certainly
a family can make, but undoubtedly a girl can make.
Yeah. And just such a beautiful thing. Like the minute, I'm sure it happened for you. So you've got this daughter already that you absolutely love. New one comes along, and you wonder, don't you? Like I've always thought, like especially as someone who had 2 siblings, and I'm the middle one, and there is undeniably, a differing experience you get depending on what sibling you are.
What position you are, effectively, 1, 2, or 3, yeah.
Exactly. All you can ask for is that your parents try their best and love you unconditionally, which 100% was the case with me and my brothers. So there's no complaints whatsoever. But even with that, and you only learn this when you become a parent yourself, particularly of more than one kid, I think, do you realise, no. So I love my kids exactly the same, obviously, right? And when the second one comes along, you don't have to divide the love, you multiply the love. There's more of you love to give. But it is impossible for anyone to argue that my second-born will get the same level of attention that my firstborn got. Yeah. It's not possible because there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
And neither third, and it extrapolates further.
I've noticed that as well. But that's why I feel like I'm finding this experience a little bit easier, because when Clementine was born in 2019, my life effectively stopped and it's restarted in a different way.
Yeah.
Whereas now, the life that we have, because of Clementine, and out of love and loyalty to Clementine, you can't stop. Everything, the new one comes along, and she just has no option but to slot into the existing framework of our life.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one can come along and effectively change who you are.
Yes, it does. It changes your life. And that's why I think that's the biggest transition from none to one. But I also think that, whilst there might be some trade-offs depending on where you come in the sibling order in terms of attention and your middle child, I'm a middle child, classic middle child syndrome. I definitely had it at one point. There's always a positive to that as well. Like, I had an older brother to learn from. I had an older brother to teach me things. I had an older brother to
beat up.
Yeah. An older brother to take on all the essentially risks. His first person in our family to go to university. All these sorts of things. He has to go and plough that field himself, if you like, and learn.
You're in the
job.
Slipstream.
And slipstream is a great way of putting it. I can just benefit from that in a way. And that maybe didn't go to plan, so I'm going to try something different, or that worked really well for him, so I'm going to copy him. So like, there's a famous child psychologist who does a lot of podcasts, a guy called Gabor Mate, and he said something I think is really true, which is like, no child has the same parents. So like, I have the same mother and father as my brothers, but I experience a different version of them. The financial position could be different from one child to this. Could be better, could be worse. Their job could be different. Their experience as a parent is different. They might have made mistakes that they've now learned from. So you don't have the same parent.
Yeah,
you
that's
have
an
the same
interesting
human,
way to look at it.
different quality of parent, or not quality is the wrong word, but a different experience.
Yeah, no, that does definitely make sense. I think that we're in a better situation than we were when Clementine was born. Undoubtedly. I was virtually unemployed.
Well, you talked about that, didn't you? That when Clementine came along, there was a bit of fear there. There was a bit of sort of risk, and you were like, "Are we okay? Are we not okay?" And in that time, and maybe because of what you talked about, that new sense of motivation and not ambition to say you weren't ambitious, but that direction.
Ambition. It's purpose, isn't it? I think a lot of people will empathise with this. It sounds so harsh on people that don't have children, but I kind of feel like it. I don't really know what the graft is for. When you I don't know, you're working hard and you're trying and you're ducking and diving and you're flitting about London trying to make things happen. I didn't have that drive. I had no purpose, effectively. I had a great time, but until I had a child, I was basically unemployable. I was. I remember I had quite a good job. I was working on Alan Carr, which at the time TV has obviously been massively affected. The whole TV industry has been massively affected by the rise of YouTube and whatever else. And the TV industry you crippled the TV industry, no doubt. But when I was working in TV, it was a good industry. Yeah, it was a good industry that provided people with good careers. I got a job on Alan Carr, which at the time was a BAFTA-winning TV show. I wanted to go to the World Cup, the Brazil World Cup 2014, and they effectively said no because it would have interfered with the contract. And I went, I quit then. Like, no ambition, no drive, just...
Well, you had ambition. You had ambition to go to the World Cup. Like, living for the weekend.
Okay, no professional ambition.
I think everyone has a different version of that. So there's a thing called ikigai in Japanese, people might have read.
Mate, you're the most profound man I've ever met.
Do you think this is the thing that people may or may not learn about?
I'm talking about Alan Carr. You're talking about ikigai.
Well, because this is the real me you're seeing, right? So for years, people have just seen Spencer talking about football. It's like such a small part of my personality. And at this pod, I actually get to talk about the things that I spend my life thinking about, right? So ikigai is this, because I do have maybe overthought a lot of things in my life. And ikigai is all about meaning, basically. And one of the reasons that Japan and parts of Japan are what's known as a blue zone, which is basically with the highest proportion of centenarians, people that live to 100. So why is that? And one of the things they believe it is because of is this sense of meaning and purpose that they have in Japan. So they don't tend to retire, like from their jobs, for example. If they do, they always are part of a community. They have these meetings and things. They do a lot of, like basic things like gardening and taking joy in gardening and the food they eat. And they have this purpose even into old age. Like the biggest killer of men is loneliness, right? That is like what happens to men, especially if they're on their own and they just stop trying to live. So everyone has to have their purpose. And some people have a purpose to a certain point. Some people without kids, just super motivated, and they have something in them that's internally driving them. I certainly had that all through my 20s, to almost ruthless extent, where I was like, no one will slow me down. This is what I'm doing. Either get on the train or, you get off. I'm going this way, sort of thing.
But would you think you had that drive then? Because ultimately down the line, you always knew that you'd be a family man.
I think that was, we talked about it like before. I reached a point, like I reached about 30 and I didn't suddenly want to have kids. And I was like, well, hang on, this should be where I should be wanting to do it now. So something's gone wrong. And basically I had sort of a combination, I think, of burnout. I was someone who prioritized being happy above anything else, like above money, above anything else. I was just like, I want to just enjoy my job. Like Bob Dylan's one of my favorite people, and he's got a quote which is, true success, it means getting up in the morning, going to bed at night, and in between doing whatever you want. So that was like my Bible. It's like, right, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do. I don't ever want to feel that I'm being made to do something I don't want to do. That's my kind of like ethos for life. So I'd lived my life like that for a long time. And then when you have some sort of success, depending on what you call success, if it's financial, I definitely had a motivator that was attention based when I was younger. Like I was a middle child. I used to do stand-up comedy. Like it's literally like just cliche.com.
Yeah. The route is a cliche, isn't it? Yeah. YouTube, a stand-up comedian into YouTube, into
it's external validation. I needed external validation for whatever reason, and I got it. Yeah. You do get it from YouTube, right? You get overnight validation in terms of or lack of, depending on how many views you get, depending on how many likes you get, whether the comments are positive. And rightly or wrongly, and the series of things that I went through, I kind of quenched that thirst. So I got to a point where I was like, right, I've not got this thing driving me anymore, this need for whatever. I've sort of had enough. I'm not saying I was some super celebrity, but I had enough sort of attention, if you like, notoriety, whatever you want to call it, from YouTube, that I knew more wasn't going to make me happier. You know what I mean? So I never was pushing to get a certain amount of subscribers or whatever. So then you start to analyze things. And being honest, goes back to what you said a minute ago. When I was in that negative place mentally, when I looked at people that got to my age and had kids, I looked at it, and this is how different my mindset is now. And I'm only happy to say this publicly because I literally do not identify with these thoughts at all anymore. But I looked at it as like almost giving up. I looked at it as someone like, right, you've got to this age, you basically decided that you need to create this purpose, because if you don't have a baby, what else are you living for the rest of your life?
Right.
It's a very negative way of looking at the world, right?
Yeah.
And so they have babies to give them purpose, but ultimately it's almost like the end of their life because they know they're going to lose all these things. And obviously what ends up being true in my experience is kind of true, but in the positive way, not a negative way, which is if your life was lacking some sort of purpose, you create this thing that is the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah.
And you don't sit there going, oh, I've got to do this now. You want to do those things.
Yeah. I used to see the value. I used to see the value in not having children. I used to be able to identify that. I think I always wanted children, but people I knew who didn't have children, couples that I knew who didn't, I always used to be quite aware of the life that they would live. If you don't have children, you've got an awful lot of money in your pocket. You go on holidays whenever you like. You've got almost no responsibility. I was aware of that. But I would also counsel anyone to have children. I think it's a wonderful thing.
It is. And I think I think there's definitely people out there that shouldn't have kids. I think there's people out there that can live a great life. And, maybe they live their whole life and they never regret that decision. Maybe they get to 60 and they regret not having kids. Maybe they regret it a few years later. But I don't think you should ever have kids if you don't 100% want them. And, it's a sliding scale like anything in life. Some people are destined to have kids.
Yeah.
Like young.
Yeah, I wasn't like that. Well, you weren't either. I wasn't. Some people I know, so it's like certain mates, they always had long-term girlfriends. Like they were always ready to be but by the time they were 30, they were married with a kid. That kind of. I certainly wasn't that, but I always think, at least, that at some point in my life there was going to be a child. And then, do you know what? When it became, you get to a point, don't you, where it's it's kind of now or never for another one.
Yeah.
Like I was always very happy with one. Like Clementine
Yeah.
was effectively supposed to be an only child. I was an only child, I haven't got any siblings. Clementine was going to be that. We really struggled with Clementine when she was first born. We really didn't find the newborn phase positive. Like it was so difficult. It was just so difficult. And you know, when people talk about the newborn stage, I'm kind of getting a little bit of an insight into that now. But I was always, resentful is not the word, but I was always very envious of people who would talk about newborn and go, oh, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it easy? Isn't they beautiful? Isn't it? Because our newborn experience wasn't that. And because it was so difficult.
But also, some of that might be people not saying the full
Not telling the
story
truth.
in public. Yeah,
There is a little bit of that.
There is a little
bit of
but
that.
it's peppered with some horrible bits.
But because of our experiences with Clementine, I didn't want another child at one point. And then it got to the stage where we basically had no choice. It was either have another child now, or you're getting to the stage where you're probably not going to have another one. And that was the moment where we were like, okay, even if the newborn stage is as difficult as it was with Clementine, even if the situation becomes that terrain that is almost non-negotiable and impossible to ride out, it's still worth it.
Yeah.
Because you get to the stage when they're, say, 4. Did you find I found 4 years old was the moment where Clementine went from being like a total lunatic who was like totally uncontrollable, totally irrational, to actually
Your little mate.
a friend.
Yeah.
A friend who you could.
Yeah, I think our oldest was probably around 3 years old. That.
Yeah.
Sure. And I did, probably different between if they're a boy or a girl. You know, we do more boyish things together.
Yeah.
We've been kind of football and all these things, but yeah, I think that's.
Did he go to hashtag?
He comes to games. Yeah, he comes to games. He doesn't really watch them. There's
Yeah.
a great video when we beat Newcastle last year, the women's team in the National League Cup final. We had like a really good turnout of like old hashtag players, and my mates and family were all there, and Seb's kids were there, and my kids were there. And the camera that was on us in the crowd, it was at Luton Town Stadium.
It was at Luton Town.
Yeah,
At Kenilworth Road.
Yeah, it's on BBC as well as on TV. We beat
Come on,
Newcastle
mate.
2-1. If Newcastle win a cup final this year, we would have been the last team to beat them in a national final. Hashtag United.
Really?
Amanda Staveley was there. Anyway, she's not obviously at Newcastle anymore.
Wow.
But there's a camera on us in the crowd, and my little boy is proper engaged in the game. It's probably the only time he's ever done that, because we were all looking at it so much, and then we were under the pressure a lot, making a lot of saves. Every time we made a save, me and everyone's just going, yes, come on. And he's in there going, yeah, he doesn't know what he's cheering for.
Yeah.
Most of the time we take him to games, he's just playing with his grandparents.
Yeah.
But what he gets from games is something completely different. He gets, because my whole family are involved in the club. So he gets to see both sets of grandparents. He gets to see an uncle. He gets to see all our friends and the manager who we're close friends with and all these sorts of things. So it's like an amazing social experience for him.
Yeah.
Not really for the football right now, but
football's that for a lot of people. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think football, for a lot of people, the drive and the draw and the reason why 1 million people a weekend go to football matches, not everybody, in fact, the vast majority of people are there for the reasons that you've just discussed.
Yeah.
Like, there's only a fair, there's more and more, sadly, but not everyone in the stadium is like an XG nerd who's there to watch 11 men kick a ball. A lot of the time, it's the relationships that are cultivated along the way.
Our West Ham season ticket was my brother's and my dad, and that was obviously we love West Ham, we love going to the games, but you didn't used to win that many.
Yeah.
It wasn't really about going thinking you're going to watch your team win.
I know,
every week.
It's friends,
going,
relationships, commitment. It's
little
all
lunch,
of those things, isn't
little
it?
Drink,
Yeah.
What's going on, guys? Football has been such a huge part of my family experience as an adult, completely like unintentionally, by the way. Like I already touched on this episode, I never planned to work in football. I wanted to work in entertainment. I wanted to be stand-up. I wanted to do radio. Like, football was just my hobby.
Yeah.
And so certainly didn't think I'd run a football club as in this part of my life. So I never dreamed of having my parents and my family all involved in the football club. Like, both my brothers have worked in the club. My partner's involved. My parents are involved. So, like, they see, it's like literally, honestly, genuinely, that is the main reason I do it now. From a hashtag perspective, my main driver. And I said this to my brother when we were on the pitch at Kenilworth Road after we beat Newcastle. And I said, look around, like, look how many, and we get lots of views on YouTube, and that stuff's great, and it underpins the football club. But actually, I said, look around, and there was all our fans in the crowd, and a lot of these people we'd never met before, hashtag or whatever. Look how many people we're making happy. And that's not just friends and family or people online. It's physical people in real life that come to watch this game. And we've put this club together from nothing.
It's a huge achievement.
So it's those things are the main driver.
And to then see your son partaking in that. Like, what a journey.
Yeah.
Maybe started before he's even born.
Maybe he'll play for us one day. That would be the dream. He's more likely to do jiu-jitsu at the moment. But before we crack on, because I know we've got some good Dad Diaries to read out this week, which is good.
Yeah.
Got a little present for you.
No.
From me and Alex. Now, I was going to get you a pair of scissors to snip. Thought that'd be too insensitive. So, quite aptly, we've put together Pandora's box. Which I'm
how
sure
nice is that?
Our audience are very educated. I'm sure you know about the mythological history of the name Pandora. Are you aware of the Pandora?
Yeah, I'm aware of, sort of superficially of what like the girl with the gifts, right?
Yeah, so I mean, again, this is a quick Google from me to remind myself, but basically, actually, it's a little bit like the Adam and the Eve eating of the apple scenario. Pandora's box is open and all the evil of the world comes out. That's not going to happen here. But we put together some little presents. So let me talk to you through what we've got for you. So this is Pandora's box, which you can do whatever you like with. Pandora's box there. Shout out to Alex for the design on that.
Fantastic, thank you.
So we have, first of all, present for Victoria, which if she's not watching this, you are welcome to pretend it's a push present from you if she's not watched it, Victoria.
And it's
It is basically a bracelet that says Pandora on it. Because before,
that's so
nice
hot,
touch.
Spencer. That's so lovely, mate.
This is for you to get through the nights. A little bit of gin there for you to enjoy. I'm not sure if you're a gin drinker.
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
And then we've got some practical gifts. We've got some orthopedic dummies. We've got some earplugs for you. We have a baby grow, but then the best bit at the bottom, which is guaranteed winner, we have a lottery ticket, and all the numbers are related to the birth of Pandora. I'll let you figure out. There's a lucky dip on there as well, but I'll let you figure out the first line, what the numbers are. That's for you, mate. You guys.
Do you know what? That is genuinely so lovely. I'm so grateful. Okay, so the 8th of the 2nd, 8 and 2 are there.
Yeah.
8 and 2 would obviously be the date of birth.
Also 8, I don't know if you want to talk about it or not, but one of the middle names. 8.
Yes, 8 and 2. Okay, so we've got Beverly. Yes, okay. So we've got Beverly, which is my mum's name.
Yeah, that's not recognised in the numbers, but
so
second middle name
Octavia
is 8.
8.
Octavia.
Which is 8. And the reason that I've done this, and it does feel slightly harsh, but the reason that Pandora's middle name is Octavia, or one of her middle names is Octavia. So her name is her name is Pandora Beverly Octavia Jennings. Pandora is her first name, and that's the name that Victoria and I have both fell in love with. Beverly is my mum's name, so it's a homage to my mum being so brilliant.
Yeah.
Octavia is firstly a wonderful name, a name that we love, but also I didn't have a boy, and I therefore was never able to pay homage and to acknowledge the brilliance of my hero Frank Lampard.
Beautiful.
Frank Lampard would obviously wear the number 8 for his entire Chelsea career, so 8. Octavia means 8.
I love it, and I like the ones. I like the names that are tributes, but a little bit cryptic, and you've got to figure it out. And listen,
did you know? So when you saw Octavia,
box midfielder still.
She could still be a box-to-box midfielder. Exactly. Absolutely. I mean, I have
women's team.
Do you know what, Spence? I haven't given up the dream yet. I'm still going to follow in Frank Lampard's footsteps.
I think you've got a chance.
I'm never ever going to give up on that dream. Did you know? You know when you saw Octavia as a middle name, did you work out the Frank Lampard connection?
I thought about the 8 when I did the lottery ticket earlier, and then I did think, I wonder if it is Frank Lampard, but I thought I won't say that in case I'm wrong. But what I do love about your names is, go back to the Haaland reference you made earlier, they're just so respectful to the establishment, your names. They are proper English, like, you know what I mean? Like, you got your Pandoras, you got your, maybe they're English or not, but they're like old-timey names. I like them a lot.
Yeah, Clementine and Pandora as siblings.
Yeah,
Clementine and Pandora.
But you did something when you were talking about that then, you're going to do a lot of, because I do it every day, is get their names mixed up. And I used to get so annoyed, because you went, Pandora. With my mum, so we're all S's in my family, right? So it's even harder. It's so easy to get our names mixed up. So if my mum would call me Saunders or Seb, I'd be like,
"Did you go?
Oh my god, do you know my name?" And now I'm like, no, it literally so easy. I mean, sometimes I call our kids Joey. It's named by a dog.
Mate, my dad, absolutely ridiculous. My dad, who, he's I'm sure we'll come onto it one day. He and I have a wonderful relationship now, like absolutely brilliant, and he's effectively a mate. But my dad, this very second, guaranteed, if you wanted to find him, you could basically go into the Prince on Kilburn High Road or one of the many pubs on the Harrow Road, and he'll be in there. Like, it's basically a guarantee. And obviously, when I was young, that would cause problems. It doesn't cause any problems anymore because we have a friendly relationship, and I adore him. He's looking at Pandora, and he goes, "All right, Victoria, all right." I'm like, Dad, come on. Like, I've been married for a decade. My wife is Victoria. That's Pandora. Like, come on, go. He's going, "Oh, Victoria."
as you get older, you do sort of realise why these things happen. Though, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I catch myself doing it all the time, and it is just going to happen for sure. But yeah, just so we got it on camera, if that lottery wins,
50-50.
Fair enough. I was going to ask for 60-40, so we'll take it.
No, 50-50, no doubt. I mean, that's why that's a wonderful gift, because it's effectively the gift that keeps giving, isn't it? Because you've given a gift, but worst case scenario, you look incredibly kind and generous, which you are. Best case scenario, we're both billionaires.
Money
exactly, yeah. Spence, I must say, this is overwhelmingly kind of you. Like, really, really lovely. Thank you so much.
Listen,
and Alex, I imagine that the vast majority of this needs to be directed at you. So, Alex, thank you very much.
I would say the thanks are on my side, because thank you for providing our podcast with so much material. You know, you've got, this is the ultimate production value. You went and impregnated a woman about 8 or 9 months in advance of starting this pod, for this show.
No, that's why I did it. You know, when we first started talking about this, I wasn't even going to do it, and then I was like, I know what will amplify the chances of getting this podcast over the line. There was actually a comment on the Instagram post that I put up of a mutual friend of ours, Rob Armstrong, fellow West Ham fan. He wrote, "This is the most commitment to a podcast I think I've ever seen."
I know it's a bit like we talked about our first coming along right at the start of COVID. Your second's come along right at the start of a dad podcast. So yeah,
amazing. Thank you so much, mate.
No, please, and pass our best on to Victoria as well, because we both know they're the heroes in this situation, and I'm sure that will carry on. But shall we do our first official dad
diaries? Yeah, this is exciting, because this is the first ones that we've seen since the episodes went live, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm not sure, I haven't even looked through these yet, to be fair, so I'm excited to see what they say. But I have personally received so many emails, DMs, people coming up to me in the street, people I see at football and stuff, like saying, I've watched the pod. And yeah, I know we talked about it earlier, but it's just such a refreshing thing to be involved in. I'm really enjoying it. And
it really is. The reaction has been just wonderful, hasn't it?
It has been, and it's just, we did it. This is part of the reason why we sort of come up with this idea, wasn't it? It's a nice sort of escape, not just from our own lives, but from football as well. Like, you know, so away from football. I know we talked about it a bit today.
Me being here today was the gift that I needed. Like I say, my house is wild. I had to go to work. Look at me, grafting.
Well, this is a little bit linked to our first dad diary, which I'm going to read now. And it says, "Hi, dads. Hope you've gotten some rest. I'm seeing the start of the terrible twos, shouting, falling to the floor and slapping. My question is, did your kids throw something similar, and how did you handle it? Did you make any mistakes during this time? And what was the best advice you got? Love the pod. Look forward to the next one." Well, thank you very much, first of all, for that entry. So I think we're still in it. So my oldest has just turned 4, and he's probably at his worst right now in terms of tantrum throwing, and in terms of when he doesn't get what he wants, it's a battle. It's a battle. And I did fear this stage only because I know what I was like, and I was bad, trust me.
Okay.
Like, I'm not really thinking about terrible 2s. I was probably more like the terrible 7s. I can remember like being in the supermarket, and my mum, I probably remember this, my mum tells this story a lot, but like, you know, I was not to your level, but I was a bit of a thespian. I was acting and things and doing that sort of stuff. And I said, I want some, I don't know, I probably wanted some magazine or some sweets or something. Yeah. Mum said no. And I just jumped on the floor, started crying my eyes out and going, "Oh, you're going to start hitting me again, aren't you?"
Oh my God.
Complete lie. Obviously,
complete lie.
She never did that. And she'd be like, "Spencer, shut up." And I'd be like, "No, don't do it to me again."
Oh my God.
And she's like, and as a parent, if your kid does that to you, you are actually stuffed.
Yeah, well, if that's now, somebody's getting involved.
You're lucky if you leave the shop with your child.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't believe it. I think I did it a second time in a doctor's surgery once. And like, yeah,
well, knowing exactly how it would look for everybody else. Explain to the audience.
Like, absolutely, that is the dark arts of childhood, isn't it, basically? Yeah. That's, you know, I had a fair few incidents like that, or like maybe a little bit worse in teenage years, but he's not done anything like that, but he's definitely like, if you tell him no to something, his face just turns and he becomes like a little monster.
Angry.
And it's
anger,
everything's a negotiation with him at the moment.
No, I think the only counsel, and I have no real counsel to give here, but do you know what I had to do? I had to just remember how young they are.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself going, like, do you know what? The one thing that I just couldn't tolerate. I was really relaxed about most things that she would do. The one thing that I couldn't tolerate was violence. I'm talking about 3, right? But violence in their own. So do you know her best mate who lives next door, like a little beautiful girl called Naya, good friends of ours. She and Clementine, such rivals, but they would actually fight. I'm talking like Tyson Bruno, like actually sort of shaping up at 3. And that's the one thing. And I remember going, absolutely not. Like, the one thing that I cannot accept is violence.
Yeah.
And I remember my mate, her dad, going, "Raw, they're 3."
Yeah.
Like that's
part
almost
of how they learn, isn't it?
understanding rather than sort of strict.
Yeah, it's totally true. I saw something the other day that said, like, you know, it's something to the tune of, like, kids at that age can only actually take in 25% of what you say. So if you feel like you've said something 4 times for them to listen,
They've only heard it
that's
once.
actually
Yeah,
not
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So it's like, just give yourself a break. I'd say they're called the terrible twos for a reason. They have a name because it happens to
It would
everyone.
be more worrying if your kid wasn't. Like you kind
Yeah.
of, it's a rite of passage, isn't it?
Well, Alex is adamant that she was the dream child and she never did a foot wrong. I think she actually might have been.
I love
from what
that.
her parents say.
I didn't do that.
No,
Love
no,
it.
same. This one's very apt. It's something I wanted to talk about, actually, and it obviously links to you as well. It says, "Hi, Spencer and Rory. I have a newborn daughter that's currently 2 weeks old.
Aw.
I'm facing huge guilt when I go into work as Dubai, this is in Dubai, this person, only has 5 days of paternity leave. I work as a teacher in the day and I run a business in the evening. How have you both managed to find a balance between work and looking after your partner and the baby?" And he says, hashtag don't go changing unless it's a nappy.
Aw.
Or don't go changing them either is my policy. I would say dad guilt is a huge thing in my head, 100%. And I have to say in my head because Alex never puts it on me. She'll never go, "You've been out a lot." And I say out. I don't go out and socialise, literally at all. But I do go out for work a lot and I go to football games and I sometimes have to leave the country and I know you do as well. And I do definitely struggle with dad guilt. Even like if it's not even involving parenting, like for example, you know, I work on the weekends for football. So sometimes if I have engineered my week properly, I do have some downtime in the week. I try and design that because I don't get it on the weekend. So it might be like in the middle of the day on a Tuesday. And then I have this guilt, which is like, I know that everyone else in the world is out working right now. I should be working, but no, I actually shouldn't be because I work on the weekends when everyone else is relaxing.
Exactly, yeah.
But I really struggle with that. And I really struggle with...
That's just a Lutheran work ethic though, isn't it? That's born out of being a freelancer.
Yeah, and you kind of think, you know, everyone else is working, so you have to do it as well, and they're gonna. Yeah, you need to control that for sure. But Dad, you travel a lot for work. Like, how do you? I know you talked about like.
I don't feel guilty.
Yeah, you love it.
I don't feel guilty. I find it such a gift. You know, if I have to go away for work, even for the day, I'm just like, thank God I have to go out because this is so hard, and I feel no guilt whatsoever, which is probably an insight into my character. But I don't feel guilty because it's work. The only time I feel slightly guilty, but my wife is so brilliant at what she does, like looking after the family, but also so supportive of my career.
Yeah, of course.
She's so supportive. So you know, this isn't our fault. We're the victims. It's not our fault that our jobs look like a party from the outside.
That is the thing, yeah.
It's not my fault that my work involves me going to play poker. It's not my fault that my work involves me having to watch football.
Yeah, no, it's your
It's
credit.
my job.
You've made a job out of your passions, which is amazing, and I agree. But so, like, Alex has been watching all our pods, and she's been making notes, right? And obviously, we want to get both our partners on here at some point. And Alex has already said she's going to hold me to task on a few things I've said that she doesn't agree with.
It's terrifying.
So just a caveat: everything I've said is my
Version of the truth. I love that.
It's true.
Yeah, it's my truth. You've turned into Meghan Markle.
So I was going to come for me at some point, which I bring it on sort of thing. But we were chatting the other day because she's planning a holiday again soon, but this time she's going to take both kids with her and her mum. And I sort of said to her, like, "You sure you want to do that? Like, it sounds like a holiday for me."
Yeah.
And she's like, "Are you all right with me doing that?" I'm like, "I'm definitely all right
You know,
with you doing that."
You're so amateur, man. You're so amateur.
Should have been
I
like,
thought you were better than
"No,
that.
don't do it."
You need this pod. You need me. What you need to do is go, you're going to... I'm going to miss you all so much, but I just about be able to make it palatable if you really want to go.
I'm too honest from that.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, just between us. Have you ever lied about working in order to not work, but just get out?
Don't think ever, no.
Have you ever said that, so say you're working at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, have you ever pretended it was 1 o'clock and you have to leave the house a bit earlier?
No, I'm
and maybe
pretty
go and
honest.
have a massage during the day?
Like, no, I've not done that. My equivalent of that would be like, for example, when I come and do these, after this, I'm going to go to the gym afterwards because there's a gym near here that I go to. But I always tell, I don't have the guilt to that effect. I'll just say to her, I'm going to go to the gym while I'm in town. And she's fine with that. I think like sometimes I might have a trip planned. There was supposed to be a Brazil trip last year for the poker stuff I'm doing, and it didn't end up happening. But because it was like 2 days, I was going to latch on a few days there, and you know, because I've never been to Brazil and try.
But
and enjoy that.
You have that frank relationship with Alex where you discuss. You go, look, I'm going to make a bit of a holiday out
I
of it.
basically went, how many days can I get away with?
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I do a week? She's like, maybe not a week, maybe do an extra 2. I'm like, can I have 4? Deal. 4. You know
do you know where I think, and I think this is applicable to both of us though, and I'm sure this is relatable to most people listening as well. Firstly, my wife would never make life hard for me in terms
No.
of going. She never. If I say I'm going out early for a match, she'd support that anyway. But equally, and this is so true. I promise. It sounds like it's not, but it's so true. As will be testified by any of our mutual friends involved in that poker scene. I want to go home anyway.
Yeah, you do. You do.
I genuinely do.
Well, both of us, and that we were in the same trip, weren't we, in Prague? As soon as we crashed out, we got the next flight home.
Next flight home.
I literally was out of a tournament. I think I was on an aeroplane less than an hour and a half.
That's exactly what happened with me.
So, and everyone else looks at you like, everyone else is going out tonight, having a good time. Like, I'm straight home.
I did the same in Vegas.
Yeah.
I did the same. I busted a tournament about 5 o'clock in Vegas. And there's one flight a day that I can get. There's one flight a day back to London. That flight was taking off at like 8:30. I was on it.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so easy for me to go, I can't get up. I'm going to have another night in Vegas. But I want to go home.
Maybe not for bedtime.
I always want to get home for bedtime. I've got a great game at Clementine's Furious because the basketball game that we play, which was being used, it was like Pandora's crib became our basketball. Throwing cuddlies in.
Yeah,
so you play one. You've seen it on the Instagram, right? You play one game of. Sorry, you play one song. So whatever it'll be a Prince song or a Fleetwood Mac song, which is the music that my daughter listens to, right?
Involved in the culture.
Exactly, right? How many cuddlies can you throw into the crib? We can't play that game anymore because the crib has been moved and whatever. She's like, what? I now, because I don't want her to feel that things have changed too much. I want her to still feel like a priority. I now get home for that game. You know, I don't want her to, and I have to like carry the crib through to its old position where it just lived for fun in order to keep playing that game, like facilitate that.
But it's important because
continuity for her, isn't it?
Exactly, and there'll start to be things that rack up where she's sort of like, hang on, this didn't used to be like this. Because it's not to compare them, but it's similar to what happened to our dog. We've got a 9-year-old dog. But it's true though, if you think about it. 9-year-old dog who, when my oldest was born, was 5. He's had all of our attention. All this. Suddenly, we had to get a dog walker because we weren't able to walk him and stuff. We just didn't, and we obviously we could have, and I still do walk him, but like he just doesn't have the same level of existence anymore. We're always talking about it. His life is exponentially worse since we had kids. And obviously, he drops down the pecking order as well. Yeah. Because when you have a second kid, you're like, they're both up
here. Get him on here as a guest.
Oh, mate, if he could talk, he would not be happy with me. I'll tell you that for free. But we do. I will say, he's the healthiest he's ever been. I've got him on a really good diet. He's getting the good quality stuff.
So not only is he getting no time, but you put him on a diet.
No, but he's good. Honestly, he looks like half
like
the
you.
He looks half the age.
Mate, I hugged you earlier. It's like hugging a Range Rover. I can't believe it.
What have you been doing? Is that a compliment?
Of course it is, mate. Good. It was like, honestly, it was like hugging Lou Ferrigno.
That's the Hulk, isn't it?
The Hulk.
Yeah, the original Hulk. I'll definitely take that. Thank you, mate. So, yeah, I think the dad guilt is a thing. I think it all depends on your setup. We're lucky we've got very accepting partners. One thing I wanted to say, and this goes out particularly to a young lady called Jessica in the comments, right?
Jessica hates you.
Listen, Jessica might hate me, actually. I just want to say, Jessica, I don't hate you. I love you. You know, I love all our commenters. But we're obviously, A, going to get things wrong sometimes. B, going to say stuff that people don't like. What I do want to say, and this is sort of what I was trying to get at in our little back and forth, is, you know, I think I can speak for Rory's situation here, but I can certainly speak for my own. It's like, when we say stuff that might come across a bit, typical, stereotypical man, or the reason we're so happy to talk about it and almost like lay ourselves bare is because we have and I certainly have a very collaborative partnership with my partner. Like everything we do as a couple, we have chosen to do as a team. So like if something that comes across a little bit, maybe it does come across a little bit archaic or traditional, whether that traditional should be seen as a bad word.
That's what I was just about to say.
Like, it's because we want to do it.
You go, we have quite a traditional relationship. It's like, that's good. Why is that? Why does that have to be bad?
There's a reason it's traditional because more people prefer it than don't.
I'm fed up. I'm fed up with the woke.
There might be some women or men in relationships that feel that they're being forced into certain roles they don't want or losing out.
And that's terrible. But don't judge everyone by that.
That's not us. Yeah. You know, and Alex is going to come on the pod, and if she doesn't agree with what I'm saying, she'll call me out on it. But we do watch them, and I say to her, "What do you think?" And there's a few things I've said that she doesn't like, but that and the way we run our lives and the roles we take are very much a collaborative thing.
Absolutely.
You know, if Alex had
need to justify that. It's ridiculous.
It goes both ways, right? Like we have a constant. I'm not like getting the violins out here by any means, because I think we both agree that our partners have it harder in the sense of the roles they do. I wouldn't swap, but you know, we do live with a constant pressure of. I mean, both our partners work and stuff as well, so it's not quite the same, but. Like for me, our businesses, I am the sole decision maker in our businesses. You know, I have to lead the strategy of that. I have to take on the pressure of making decisions and getting them right and making them make money and not. and that comes with its own challenges.
Totally. There's nothing. I think it's very good of you to justify it and to have this conversation, but we have a very traditional relationship, and that's how we both like it, and that's how I want it, and I don't care if you don't like it.
Yeah, I want to welcome other comments and different opinions, but also I just say, and I'm not saying Jessica in this case, who didn't like me using her first name, her full name, but it's because your username on YouTube said Jessica. What do you want me to call you? JJ? Jess? Yeah. I don't know that you go by that. The point is, bring on the comments. I'm all for it, but it's stupid trying to think we're going to get up through a podcast like this and not rile some people.
Also, you've got to remember that there are lots of people in the world who actually enjoy being offended and will therefore search for that and find offence in things that aren't offensive at all.
Yeah. Well, that's the perfect note, I think, to wrap this episode up. I know you've got to get home and do some more parenting.
Mate, I'm nocturnal now. I'm like Batman. Batman nocturnal?
Well, bats are.
Batman. Is Batman? Yeah, well, bats are. Yeah.
He does his crime fighting at night mainly.
Does his crime fighting at night? That's what I do.
Yeah.
I do my crime fighting at night when Pandora's going wild through the night.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing episode on episode how your energy levels may or may not change.
Yeah, they're being
propped up
because I am caffeined up to the eyeballs. Yeah, but look, I haven't had a shave because I can only shave at the gym. I haven't been getting to the gym. I'm not shaving at my own house, you see.
Why can't you shave?
I don't like doing it. Mess up my sink. I do it at the gym.
That's quite a responsible. Like, one of the things Alex hates about me, I would say, is that when I shave, and I always tend to shave right after it's been cleaned. I will shave, and also like I did it today. I'm a quite hairy man. So sometimes I'm shaving my top, my back. My back is very hairy.
Really?
I'm not gonna lie to you.
You're very hairy under there.
So when I finish a full shave, it is like sheep shearing has gone on in there. And it is a lot of hair.
You have to let me some.
No, I do clean.
I'm like a baby seal, man. I've barely got any, like my body. Yeah, it's like a seal pup.
I do clean up after myself just to be good. I don't just leave hair everywhere, but there's always remnants.
Yeah.
And
I do it at the gym.
This is great podcast.
And I can't get there.
Well, listen, congratulations, man.
Thank
I'm really
you.
happy for you.
And thank you again, both you and Alex. These presents are touching, really kind.
Please pass my best on to Victoria.
Certainly.
And we need to get all the kids together soon.
Can't wait for that.
Sure, but I'll give you a little bit of time to get settled. Yeah. But thanks for watching, guys. Obviously, don't forget, make sure you're following us on all the socials at Internet Dads Pod. And we do want to see or hear from you for more Dad's Diaries because I really enjoy talking about them. So all the stuff you need will be in the description. But we'll see you on the next one.